Hi, it's Sandy Parker and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to be covering a can with rope that has fabric on it without sewing. I hope you'll stay tuned. So I have a can that I got at Christmas. It's cute, but of course it's Christmassy themed, and I don't think that it's going to be something that I want to sit around in the summer with Christmas on it. So I thought what I would do is cover it with rope, and the rope is going to be covered with fabric. The fabric I got at Joann's, and it is fishy material like that. I cut it in strips that I hope are going to be wide enough to cover our rope with. Now the rope is rope, not a craft rope, so it has, you know, the bends and curves in it, and that might be problematic for me. We're going to hope that's not the case, but I can't guarantee it. I'm going to start the rope on my lap. I'm going to hold the rope on my lap, while I do this. And I cut these strips the length of the material, and because it's an outdoor fabric, I think it's maybe like 54 inches long or 45, I don't know. I think it's fairly long. It's 4 feet and probably about 4 inches. What's that? 52 inches? Man, I did that math in my head fast, didn't I? Anyway, so it's not quite as long as I thought it was, but it's long enough for our purposes. I cut 3 strips of it, and my plan is to use my hot glue gun. This rope is really prickly, and when it touches your skin, it leaves an owie. I didn't know how else to say that. It leaves a big boo-boo. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start by laying a little row of glue in the center of my fabric, just to lay a little section of rope in it and hope that I can get it to stay. Because it's regular rope, it's not craft rope, this is real rope. Because it's real rope, it's going to be bendy. It's going to have, it's going to have a mind of its own, and that might be problematic for me. But I only do things that are problematic. Look how it's already fighting me. Ugh, what are you going to do? Again, bead of rope. Rope. Bead of hot glue. Now I'm going to try and get my rope as straight as possible when I lay it in that. Because if I've got kinks in my rope, I'm going to have kinks in my wraparound, and I'm not going to want that. Again, more glue. I'm probably doing, I don't know, maybe close to a foot at a time. If I can get it to lay flat, I could do a lot, but as you know, it was fighting me at the beginning. It's still, the beginning is still fighting me, but the beauty of it is I'm going to be wrapping it around, so it shouldn't be a problem. Oh, and I just cut my fabric, we'll call it eyeballing it, and not with a T-ruler or any kind of straight edge. I just whacked at it, because why wouldn't I? This is pure Sandy. And so it's not going to be perfectly straight, and I'm hoping that everything that I have cut is actually going to be long enough, wide enough, I guess, that it will cover the rope. If it doesn't, we can just make sure that part of the rope is on the back where nobody will see it. Well, somebody will probably see it and go, "Hey, Sandy, what's the deal there? You got some rope showing there." And then my response. If you're looking that close, you shouldn't be looking that close. Look away. Just look away. Moving right along. My bird's doing a great job. I'm starting to run out of glue. If you don't know this trick, if you put a little teeny tiny dollop of glue on the end of this stick, when you stick it in the back of your glue gun and attach it to the back of the glue stick before it, it makes it so you don't have to keep messing around with it. If you've never used a glue gun, when you insert that new piece of glue, a lot of times you'll have a problem where they don't want to push through and you have to push in the end of it, and it's just something that's frustrating. one of our neighbors. If I haven't told you this story, I'm going to tell you a story. Last year, people that live in a house not immediately close to mine, but within the neighborhood, they had a litter of kittens last summer. Which, great, good for you. But I think what happened is as soon as the mother stopped feeding those kittens, then they stopped feeding the kittens. And by last winter, we had this little black cat, clearly not a year old, it was a young cat. We had her in our backyard looking so thin, and in the winter, and up here the winters are cold and unprotected, nothing to keep it warm, nothing to feed it, and it was heartbreaking to watch. And Rich he says he's not a cat person, but he and I decided, we understood the ramifications of this, we decided we would feed the cat. So we started feeding her, and then I decided this spring, I'm not bringing more cats into the world. I don't know if it's a girl or a boy because this is a feral cat and she wouldn't let us touch her. So we talked to an animal rescue group and they told us exactly what we needed to do to catch it, to get it spayed. And so we caught her and got her spayed. Well, when we got her spayed, we've been feeding her all winter. She was so thin, she hadn't been getting any heavier. We've been feeding her for months and she wasn't getting any heavier. And we didn't know why she wasn't getting any heavier. Well, when they spayed her, they said, we just want you to know she tested positive that she's lactating. That means she was nursing babies. We had never seen her get any heavier. She never disappeared like they do when they have kittens. I don't know, but I'm sure that her kittens would not have survived the time that she was away, because after you get a feral cat spayed, they want it to be kept in a protective environment for up to 72 hours to ensure that its stitches aren't ripped out, and mainly because they're still kind of sedated, they don't want predators to kill the cat. So then we're feeling terrible that we know kittens couldn't have lived through 4 days without their mother, and that's making us feel bad. And then, well, let me back up. At the beginning, we only had the black cat. And then all of a sudden, this gray cat that's very large, but is really thin, probably part of this group, very, very thin. And of course, we started feeding the gray cat too, because I can't stand to see an animal starve to death. And if you'd have seen the size of this cat, he is humongous, but he's thinner than anything. And it's so hard for me to see a starving animal. And the thing that was really hard to watch is when we would feed him, he would eat the food like he never had a meal. And it just was heartbreaking. So we have definitely kept the black cat. And if you don't know, our oldest golden retriever, who is Bella, was 12 and a half, and she got cancer, and the vet told us we had a month to 3 months, and she lasted a day and a half from that proclamation. It was in her stomach area, but not inside her stomach, and so she died maybe 3 weeks ago now. Anyway, because that was the same time that we were getting the cat spayed, I said to Rich, I'm going to name the cat. If it's a girl, I'm going to name it. I didn't care if it was a boy or girl, but if it was a girl, I wanted to name it. And so as soon as he brought her home, he said, she's a girl. And I said, I'm naming her Ella for Bella, so that we had like a keepsake. This cat follows Rich everywhere. Remember, Rich says he's not a big fan of cats, but this cat follows him everywhere. And if he picks up the pace, she picks up the pace. She's a very small cat. She's a black with a little white tip on the end of her tail. She's sweeter than anything. And now she lets us pet her, and she will, you know, hang out with us on our porch or our patio. And the dogs have then become really anti-cat. So that's why I'm explaining this whole story, because they've been so mad that we're spending time with this cat, and that, you know, they're inside, and she really would like to come in the house. They would, of course, probably go insane if she came in the house, but she would really like to come in the house. She's a really sweet cat. So anyway, back to the gray cat. So this gray cat that is a very large cat, but very, very thin, we decided, okay, well, if we're going to have one outdoor cat, because we've got this problem with these stray cats, and nobody in our neighborhood, I've asked everybody, do you know whose cats these are? Do you know, have you seen anybody that owns these cats? You know, what's the deal with these cats? And all they say is, I don't know whose cats they are. And I have not gone to the house whose cats I think it is, because I think they'll deny it, and that would make me mad, and then I would have to lose my temper, and I don't want to do that. So we're just taking responsibility for these cats, getting them spayed and neutered or whatever. I don't know which one is which. I think it's boys are neutered and girls are spayed, but I might be making that up. But anyway, we want to make sure that these cats are fed and sheltered, and we've got an igloo lined up for them for the winter, and we're sticking it out. We've got cats now, and Rich is very, very, very fond of Ella. He thinks that she's just the sweetest little cat. And he, out of the blue, named the gray cat. You're going to love this. He named the gray cat Bobcat, because it has a huge, I mean, it's huge. I don't know if he thinks he looks like a bobcat or not, but he named it Bobcat, but he calls it Bob, and it makes me laugh, because this cat is still very feral, very afraid of us, doesn't want to get anywhere near us. But if you have food, he's your buddy. He won't come to you for food, but he will wait around until you aren't right on top of his food source, and then he'll eat. And he's going to be a sweet cat too. I think it's just a matter of time before he and Ellie are hanging out on the back patio together. All right, I'm gonna, I think, finish this up without you guys, because it's just all of the same, and then I'll come back when I start wrapping it around itself and making it a full pattern. So I cut my rope off, and I wanted to make sure I showed you, when you cut the end of a real rope like mine, it's going to fray. The only ways you can stop it is either by putting a piece of tape around the edge, or by taking a match and burning the ends. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So you're going to take the end of your rope, you're going to make sure it's twisted around itself, and then you're just going to take your match and make sure that the end of your rope is all burned like that. You don't really want to catch it on fire, but you do need it to be burned like that, so that it will stay in the form that it's in right now. So I'm at the end, and I've already worked on the whole gluing process. I glued one side down to almost the whole piece. So I'm going to show you that this uses a lot of glue. I probably used, I don't know, 15 sticks already. I'm going to cut off this piece that clearly you can't see. This piece that has the writing on it. And then I'm going to cover the end of my rope with another piece of material. So here's the end of our rope. So I'm going to just put a gob of glue there. We're going to see if we can get that to lay in there, because it's not happy to be here. Then I'm going to take this little piece, hopefully it's big enough. Yeah, I think it will be. I'm just going to wrap this piece around my rope, And then I'm going to snip the top edge on either side up to the rope so that I can tuck it around. So then I'm going to take one of these pieces and tuck it under like that. And then I'll take the other side and make a little blanket. Just gonna cover it. I haven't burned myself so bad yet that I've cried, so that's a good day. I'm gonna do the same on this side. I'll probably say that about gluing myself, and then I'll probably glue myself really badly in the next couple seconds, so guess we'll all wait and see. You should never brag, because you know when you brag about stuff, then you'll always end up living to regret it. At least I have. I always end up going, oh, okay, I didn't burn myself, and then the next thing I know, I'm like in the hospital. All right, I'm going to leave that like that. Then I'm going to show you how I glued. Okay, wait, I got to show you the side I glued together. Stopping right here. So what I did was I glued my whole, I guess we'll call it left side, down. And anywhere I had too long material, like this is basically all the longer I needed this side to be. So anywhere that I had too much material on that side, I didn't know how much material I would need, and I figured I'd go, go with more rather than less, and then I wouldn't have a huge problem. That was my thinking. So I'm just going to trim this side. And what I did was I glued about, I would say, maybe up to a foot. And I just glued it so I had glue along the rope and up to the edge. And then, this is where I'm going to burn myself. And then I pulled the rope, I pulled the material around the rope and tried to make sure that I really did a good job of getting the rope and the material and making them as one. What I thought I would show you now is I'm going to finish up the gluing of the side, and then I'm going to start gluing the other side to make it a complete loop. There were places where I thought my material was too short, so I put in a little extra material. And this is one of those places. I don't know if you can see that, but there's 2 pieces of material right there. Clearly I didn't need it, but you don't know, and I figured I better fix it before I started gluing it down, so that if I did have an issue that I would be able to correct it before. This is the hardest part for me, and this is my big recommendation if any of you decide to do something like this. If you're going to do it, you really, really don't want to use traditional rope like this. It's so hard to work with because it just doesn't want to stay in any kind of straight line. And so the whole time you're working with it, you have to be spinning it and holding on to it. Sorry, I'm having to hold the very end here because it doesn't want to play. So anyway, it's just really more problem than I think you would want to do. And then if you get to a spot like this spot, I have way too much material. So what I need to do is on this side, you're going to want to trim that off because it's too long. I don't care that this side is too long, but what I do care about is these frays. You're not going to want those. Well, you might want them if you like that look, like the distressed look. You might want to leave them, but I'm going to cut mine so that I can get rid of any of that fray. As I said, the fabric stores sell really cool rope that's made out of cotton. It's very pliable. It doesn't have the tendency to fight you like this does. All I can say is you don't want rope. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to finish my rope. I'm going to start here at the beginning. This is going to be hidden. No one's going to see this piece because I'm going to, well, they'll see it, but it's not going to be any kind of freak show like it is right now. So I'm going to put glue on the whole piece all the way up to the top and all the way down to the rope. And then I'm going to do this as slowly as possible because it is now complete glue, and I want to make sure that my ends are covered. My first part I glued down, I want them to be covered by the second material. The other problem I had with this is this material frays a lot, and if you get a material that frays as much as this, it was frustrating to work with this because of the fraying. I wasn't a fan. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it, and the left side didn't get glued down really well right in there, so I need to make sure I get that glued down first. You know, tuck it under. Hopefully I'm in frame. I'm going to go about that far, and then I'm just going to pinch it till it holds on itself. I'm going to, when I put this down, I'm hoping that my seam is on the back the whole way. If I make mistakes, that's better for you guys, because then you won't make the same mistakes I'm making. You know what I mean? It's important for you to understand. I want to be your mistake maker. I could be a commercial mistake maker. You know that guy that is, what is he, Mayhem? On TV, the commercial for some insurance. I don't know what the insurance is, but I could be mistake maker instead of Mayhem. Look if you can get me a contract doing that, will you guys? If you don't think you have enough glue on your, we'll call it the blue piece, the piece I'm laying on top, if you don't think you have enough glue on that or under it, you can just squirt a little bit back in there and then roll it on itself. Okay, so hopefully you can see what my piece looks like. And any place like this spot that just doesn't want to stay glued together, I'm just going to put another little dollop of glue in. And the easiest way to get it to stick down is to roll it on your mat. And then if you end up with glue like this on there that it's on the outside, don't worry about it. When you're done, all you have to do is rub that and it'll come right off. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going, and then I'll come back when I'm at the end of the glue stage and we're ready to glue it to the bucket. I wanted to show you how I was making sure that I handled my rope so that I could get it to be completely enclosed with the material. This rope is hard to work with. I would use a different kind that bends easier. I'm just telling you. I thought rope was rope. Guess what? It's not. So what I did was, as I think I showed you, I glued half of my rope to this half of the material on this side. Then what I did is I squirted enough under and onto the material. I'm going to do just a section so you can see how I did this. I made sure that this part is attached to the rope. And then what you do is you're going to take it and you're going to roll it onto a surface. Really do a good job of rolling it, because that's what's going to make sure that your rope is completely surrounded by material. And then if you have a section like in this section, I don't have enough glue, so it's not going to stay really well adhered. So I want to make sure that I do that. You kind of roll it almost like, I don't know, a snake? I don't know what you'd call that. If you have a little spot where it's not, where you haven't covered your rope, don't worry about it. I'm sure we're not going to have any spots where somebody's going to see that and go, oh my gosh, Sandy, I can see that your rope is hiding in plain sight. We have to fix that. I'm not worried about that at all. So I have covered my entire rope. Next up, we're going to get our can. Now you can do this a bunch of different ways. If you decided that you wanted to have your the underside be plain rope, so because nobody's going to see this underside, we need to come up with a plan about where we want to start and stop this project. It would probably be easier if we started from the bottom and went around the top, but I think I'm going to do the opposite. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover the end of my rope. I want to make sure that my rope has no seam, no, not seam, end, that's what we'll call it, an ender that you can see the rope. You'll see it as soon as I show it to you. Okay. See that? I don't want that to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little piece of material and I'm going to somehow wrap it around. I think I'm just going to do something wonky with it. I'm going to do something like that. This is why I failed high sewing. Because, you know, I'm just a fly by the seat of my pants kind of seamstress. Okay, here's what I was thinking. If I put it on the top like this, and then I wrapped it around, I should be able to make this work, right? Yeah, we're going with it. Okay, so first off, let's put a little dollop of glue on the very top. And that way we've got a place to start. No one will know the difference, or they will, and then all of you will tell on me and say, look how she rigged that. Then I'm going to turn it upside down so it looks like a bow on top. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a dollop of glue on this edge. See that? That edge. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap it around like that so that it's completely wrapped around my piece of, I forgot the word, rope. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. Put a little bit, and then I'm going to take it as tightly as I can and wrap it that way. And then, because I can, I'm going to do the same thing on this side where I'm going to just, well, I've got a piece here I don't like. I've got too much material right there. So let's hack it off, shall we? I stink at these really long pieces, these long handled scissors. Couldn't think of the word scissor either. Long piece, I don't even know what I was talking about there. I'm just making up. Okay, I'm going to whack off a little bit more. And yes, even a little more. Oops. When I say oops, you know it's bad. I don't know if oops is the worst or if when I start to sing is worse. When I start to freak out, I sing a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the edges of this piece, or more than a little. And then I'm going to do kind of like what I did with the rest of my rope. I'm going to put it up against the silicone mat so that I can get this to be a flat surface, theoretically a flat surface. That is what the end of my rope now looks like. I don't want to start, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to start where I'm going to be running into these handles. So I want to start so I'm below the handles like that. So I'm going to put, this ought to be priceless, a dollop of glue right there. And I'm going to hold it in there. You understand that I'm ruining this bucket. This bucket is this is the end of its life. As soon as I do this, it's no longer going to be a viable bucket. because I'm going to really mess it up. So if you do this, remember what I just said. Your bucket is no longer viable after you do this, unless you come up with a system of how you want to take the glue back off. I don't know how I would have done that. So I'm just saying, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and it's not going to be pretty. And I'm going to be as tight as I can. And I'm trying to stay even. I'm sorry if I'm out of camera. I'm trying to stay as even as I can with the line that I'm working on. I'm working kind of right there on that bottom line. Okay, and I'm also, if you didn't notice, I'm also trying to make sure that the ugly side of my rope is hidden underneath. That was an accident because I had no idea if I'd be able to hide it underneath or not. At some point it probably will roll to the top and I'll have the ugly piece, but I'm going to put this as tightly as I can up against itself. Again, as tight as you can get it and as close as you can get it to that line. We don't want any of the bucket showing. I think we want the blue part of the rope showing. I don't think we want the bucket showing. Okay. I'm holding it as tightly as I can. Now this is the moment where I'm not sure how to go on, because you see this, how this is no longer going to be a straight line because I have to go below that piece. I think I'm going to cover the top with some kind of material, so I guess I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to show you like a couple of rows, and then I'm going to go on to not showing you anything because I don't want to make this video 7 hours long of me gluing a bucket together. I'm also, when I'm done, I'm also going to be using my my heat tool, and these places where I have a lot of glue, I'm going to melt it so that we can get rid of that. Okay, so you've seen what I'm doing. I'm gluing it to the piece of rope above it, and I'm gluing it to the bucket below it. So these are the important things to note, because now I'm going to hopefully move on with my project. And I don't want you to have to, as I said, watch me glue things to a bucket forever. I glued it all the way, I'll show you in a second, all the way to the bottom like this, so that the bottom is covered as far as it would go, and then it's going to sit up like this. I think what I'm going to end up doing is taking a cloth napkin that's white and just kind of draping it over the top edge so that it looks cool, and using it as, I don't know, a bucket. I'm going to use it as a bucket to hold things on my porch, I think. I think I'll just maybe put books in it or something, but that's my plan. I thought it was fun. It still is, it's still got some wet spots. All you do to get rid of that glue, I'll show you that because I don't want you to miss out on any of the fun and excitement, is this. You're going to turn on a heat tool, or you could use your blow dryer. That would work. I'm going to show you in this section because it's especially shiny right in there. You're going to wet it. You're going to heat it. Don't wet it, heat it. And then as you heat it, it'll get shinier, and you can just kind of scrape it off with your scissors. You see how that works? Here, I'll turn this off so you can see me do it live and in real time. So you just kind of scrape off any of that you don't want, and it will dry. It'll be kind of maybe a foggy looking color. It won't be completely matte like the material, but it won't be shiny like this. Hold on, let me get a chunk of glue out of that section right there. I'm not particularly concerned about things like this because, again, this is just for me. But if you were really worried about your glue showing, you could always be a little bit more slow and methodical when you do it so that you don't end up with the glue to begin with. Wait, let me show you another section. Right in here, it's kind of wet. Okay, so what you're going to do, turn that off. I'm just going to take my scissors, and in this section that I have a ton of glue, and you're just going to kind of scrape it. And it'll take it off, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like. It's kind of like a, as I said, it's kind of like a foggy. It's not going to be shiny anymore. There. So I think you got the gist of it. It's fun. It's frisky. As I said, I'm going to put a little bit of a cloth over it so that I can make it something so the whole thing looks finished. But I think it's fun. It took a while to do, but it was worth it for me because I wanted to do something with that fish material, and I did. So I hope you enjoyed this, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and please tell your friends about me on social media because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.